The prospects for gender equality vary greatly across the world. Although the Nordic countries have come a long way towards reaching gender equality, living conditions vary depending on where in the Nordic region you live. This is, in part, caused by urban-rural differences when it comes to access to education and jobs, proximity to schools and healthcare, and the breadth of cultural and recreational activities. Such factors affect the attractiveness and vitality of communities, not least for the people who live there. Both women and men in the Nordic countries are moving to the cities. They are leaving the red areas on the map and moving to the more urbanized blue areas. But the trend is stronger among women. Limited opportunities for education, jobs, and political influence are some of the reasons women choose to leave rural communities. The dark blue areas show places where the female population is decreasing, while the male population is increasing. Today, there are more men than women living in Nordic rural areas, indicated by the red areas on the map. This rings especially true in the Faroe Islands and in Greenland, where the depopulation trend is most critical. It is mainly young people who chose to move away, leading to aging populations in rural areas. The map shows that people aged 65 or older represent a bigger share of rural populations than urban ones in large parts of northern Sweden and Finland. Over time, this will make it difficult to maintain levels of welfare and social security in rural areas. Ultimately, this affects women more than men, as women tend to take on more unpaid work and caregiving when public services are not available. There is more occupational sex segregation in rural areas than in the cities. In almost all rural Nordic communities, most women are employed in the public sector, while most men work in the private sector. Fewer job opportunities in rural communities make people more vulnerable to the effects of downsizing and employer relocation. Women and men tend to react differently to unemployment. Men are more likely to opt for seasonal work or long commutes, while women tend to move to urban areas or look for work in other sectors. Municipalities where men primarily work in the private sector and women in the public sector have higher rates of depopulation, since the occupational segregation leads to fewer job opportunities. To meet this challenge, sex segregation in the labour market needs to be reduced. Another way to take action is to increase the use of digital workplace solutions. These can make it easier to work remotely and to connect with colleagues even when they are based in other locations. Women across the Nordic region have higher educational levels than men. The difference is especially pronounced in the northern parts of Finland, Norway, and Sweden. When universities are located far away, many people in rural areas, especially women, choose to move away to study. The map shows where universities are located. Women often remain in cities once they have finished their degrees, since jobs that require high skill levels are often located there. To meet the challenges in the Nordics, there needs to be more educational opportunities in rural areas. In areas where there is access to education, men's education levels also rise. Job opportunities that attract people with higher education to rural areas also need to increase. For people living in rural areas, the availability of childcare, schools, and public services is vital. So is access to health and maternal care. Many people in Finland, Norway, Iceland, and Sweden, as well as large parts of Greenland, Ireland, and the Faroe Islands, have to travel far to reach the nearest delivery clinic, which first and foremost affects the health of women and children. If maternal care infrastructure is lacking, people may hesitate to have children or choose to move away to start their family. To meet this challenge, effective and innovative services achieved through, for instance, investments in infrastructure and digital solutions are crucial. Many women in rural areas report that their opportunities are constrained by norms surrounding responsibilities, gender roles, and parenthood. In all Nordic countries, men tend to outnumber women in local government. The redder the area is on the map, the larger the majority of men in municipal decision-making. This has direct implications for rural communities, since women's lack of influence and power is another reason they choose to move away. Taking action to ensure equal participation of women and men in decision-making at the local government level is a way to meet this challenge. Other ways to take action include challenging traditional gender roles. The Nordic countries have made great strides towards gender equality. People are provided with free healthcare and education, and more women are part of the workforce than the global average. But, at the same time, rural areas face challenges, such as hospital closures, long distances to universities, and fewer job opportunities. As a result, women in particular are likely to move away. Since the Nordic countries have among the lowest population densities in the world, this development is a serious threat to the very existence of many communities. To enable people across the Nordic region to enjoy the same conditions and opportunities for a fulfilling life, the differences between rural and urban areas need to be addressed. We also need to strive for gender equality throughout the Nordic region. Many of the challenges we see in rural areas also exist in the cities. There is a need for more nuanced understanding of life in rural areas. Stereotypical notions such as that it is impossible to have a rich life or a good job outside the cities may lead to stigmatization. The idea that all women move away from the countryside is also false. Many women do live and thrive there. Others actively choose to move to rural communities. There are many realities in rural Nordic communities. With more knowledge, especially from the people who live in rural areas, we can work effectively to meet the challenges and improve living conditions. As part of this goal, we also need to learn from the experiences gained elsewhere in the world, as the challenges are not unique to our region. By working together, we can improve the prospects for gender equality for everyone.